if you're someone who needs to hear you did well before you believe you did well, if your confidence rises and falls based on how people respond to you, if someone becoming distant makes you question what you did wrong, then you seek validation more than you realize. And I want to talk about this honestly today because I have lived like this for years. In my relationship, if my boyfriend didn't call me beautiful, I genuinely convinced myself that he didn't find me attractive. Not occasionally, every time. At work, no matter how hard I worked, how much I delivered, how late I stayed, I needed my boss to say good job before I could actually believe I had done one. At home, every effort I made for my family, I needed them to acknowledge it, to see it, to say it out loud. Otherwise, it didn't count. And the exhausting part, none of these people were doing anything wrong. I was just completely dependent on the reactions to feel okay about myself. My confidence, my self worth, my sense of being enough, it all lived outside me. वो सब बाहर था. And if you live like that long enough, your self worth stops belonging to you, it starts belonging to everyone else. So today I want to break this down properly. We're going to talk about these because honestly, I feel a lot of people go through this more than they even realize. And most of them don't even know it's happening to them. So let's start with the signs because sometimes validation seeking doesn't look obvious. It doesn't always look like constantly needing compliments or fishing for a praise. It is sometimes much quieter than that. A reply from someone you care about or like instantly lifts your mood. Someone taking more than usual to respond, and your brain starts searching what you did wrong. Someone seeing slightly off with you, and you spend next 2 hours replaying every recent conversation to figure out where you went wrong. And the exhausting part, most of the time, nothing ever happened. But because your sense of security depends on other people's reaction, your brain automatically treats this behavior as a reflection of your value. When people are warm and responsive, you feel secure. When people are distant and distracted, you start to feel there's something wrong with you. And it shows up in other ways too. Wanting everyone to like you, not just people who matter, everyone. Struggling to handle it when someone's upset with you, even when you've done nothing wrong. Changing your behavior depending on who you're around without even realizing it. Over explaining yourself because being misunderstood is unbearable. Being so emotionally dependent on attention and feeling its absence like a withdrawal. Matlab, when someone's approval becomes a kind of thing that makes you feel you're enough, you've handed them a kind of power over you that they probably don't even know they have. And mostly at the core of all of it, there's usually one fear that without the approval of these people, maybe I'm not enough. And here's the part I want you to hear clearly. You didn't become this way because there's something wrong with you. You became this way because at some point it made sense. A lot of people grew up in environments where love felt conditional, where you were praised because you were easy, helpful, agreeable, well behaved, and even successful, where the version of you that got most approvals was the version that performed. So your brain did something. It realized early on that approval equals safety and being liked equals value. And that lesson gets carried into every relationship you have, every workplace you go to, and every family dynamic you enter as an adult. You become so hyper aware about how people respond to you because deep down, your nervous system is still treating their reactions as information about whether you're safe. And that is why validation can almost feel addictive. Someone compliments you, you feel okay again. And for a moment, your self doubt goes quiet. Someone reassures you, and you feel okay again. Someone gives you little attention, and you feel important again. वो relief बहुत real होती है, but it never really lasts because borrowed confidence has to always return. And when your confidence is built on borrowed things, your sense of self becomes unstable. Here's what I mean. When you start seeking validation, you stop fully trusting your own perception of yourself. You need other people to confirm things for you. You need someone else to call you attractive before you actually start to feel attractive. You need someone else to praise you before you can actually feel your work was good. You need someone to reassure you in a relationship so you can feel secure. And the moment someone criticizes you, ignores you, or withdraws their attention, your self image starts to shake. And I know this because I've lived like this for years. My confidence at work was whatever my boss said about me that week. My confidence about my looks was whatever my boyfriend noticed. My sense of being valued in my family was whether my family acknowledged my efforts. And the terrifying thing about living like this is that you slowly start shaping yourself ar- around what people will approve of you. You become more accommodative, more agreeable, more careful about what you say and how you say. And eventually, you stop asking yourself, do I like who I become around certain people? Because when you are constantly seeking validation, you have disconnected from yourself. अपनी ही अंदर की आवाज एकदम कम हो गई है, until one day you realize you don't even know what you think of yourself because you were so dependent what others thought of you. And here's the part that I really want you to sit with, because no amount of external validation can fix an internal insecurity. I know that sounds simple, but think about all the compliments that you've received in life and have immediately dismissed. Someone called you beautiful and you immediately thought they were being nice. Someone praised your work and you immediately started to think what you would have done better. Someone said they loved you and some part of you was waiting for them to change. That is not a compliment problem. That's an internal problem. Because if the insecurity lives within, no amount of external input will ever reach it. There'll always be another person to impress, another situation that makes you doubt about yourself, and another moment where the reassurance wears off and the doubt comes back. And that is what I had to understand about myself. Every roadblock I hit, every time a relationship didn't work out, a workplace situation broke me down, or my family didn't see my efforts, those weren't just painful experiences. Those were moments that forced me back to myself. Because when the external validation wears off, and mind you, it always does, the only thing left is what you think of yourself. I realized I relied so much on others' opinions about me that I never actually built one for myself. I had been outsourcing opinion about myself my entire life. Confident people are not confident because everyone's constantly validating them. They are confident because they've stopped fully depending on external validation. They can get rejected without collapsing. They can disappoint without spiraling. They can exist in a room without performing. That kind of stability comes from within. It is built over time, slowly, repeatedly, after every roadblock forces you back to yourself. So, if you're someone who seeks validation, I'm not going to tell you to stop caring about what people think because it's not realistic and that's not even the point. I want to just share what worked for me. It wasn't one moment, it wasn't one book or one conversation. It was every time life knocked me down and I had no choice but to come back to myself. Every time a relationship ended and I had to decide, do I fall apart waiting for him to tell me I'm worth it, or do I start telling that to myself? Every time a boss tried to undermine me and I had to decide, do I actually need his approval to know I'm good at this, or do I actually know I'm good at this? And every time my family didn't acknowledge something I gave my everything to, and I had to decide, do I actually need their words of approval to know my value, or I know my value independently of their response? And सच में यही करना पड़ा हर बार, over and over, until self trust stopped becoming something I had to convince myself of and started to become something I just had. And here's what it looks like practically. Start noticing how often you reach out of yourself to seek reassurance, not to judge yourself for it, just to see it, because you cannot change that you cannot see. And build evidence for yourself. And when you do something well, write it down. So when self doubt shows up next time, you have something real to show it. Stop trying to convince others to see your value, because the energy spent on convincing someone else who isn't seeing you is energy stolen from becoming someone who doesn't need to be convinced of their own worth. And the most important thing, start showing up for yourself the way you show up for others. Give yourself the same understanding, the same patience, and the same benefit of doubt. Because the moment you build self confidence from within, other people's opinions stop controlling you the same way. You stop chasing reassurance, you stop reading into every dry reply, and you don't need people to confirm your value just to feel okay. And you actually start feeling something that no compliment ever made you feel: stable and grounded. That's it for today. And if you recognized yourself somewhere in this, drop it in the comments. I think a lot more people live like this than will ever admit. And the first step is just being honest.